and I'm going to ask. I'm going to mute just for a second. I swear I'll come back, Silver Springs, but it's a question I have to ask Jeff. It's a personal question. No, I can mute it from here. Watch me. Mutes both. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
You can't hear us, Silver Springs, can you?
It's a personal question.
Did you have some shady downloads happening?
I did not.
Oh. Well, I wonder what was the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's weird.
Too much Star Wars.
Wait, did you have Steam open?
I do have a bunch of like programs, like games that will start their downloads when I start my laptop. I don't know if I close them all.
See, like I have background downloads turned on Steam, so if it did anything in the background, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Well, I have mine set up as like to do them at midnight and 1 a.m. or like 4 a.m. is when I have them set up to do it.
But if they don't finish and you open your
laptop,
Right.
See, I just have
But he said that they have been monitoring that closely about what students are doing on the broadband.
Yeah.
I guess
The thing is that one thing you got to understand about the way downloads work is that the worst type of internet activity that can happen that takes the most bandwidth is downloads.
Yeah.
So if it's download, it's pure downloading. It's just taking bit rate because it goes to go as fast as it can in conjunction with whatever you're currently doing. YouTube is not quite as bad because it's pretty decently compressed video, and it does it as needed. It only does a little bit at a time. But like if you're downloading, like say a movie, or you're downloading like Steam, like games on Steam, I mean it's just gigs that are all downloading at once in a stream. Like it's quick, and it can disrupt all kinds of, I guess, internet stuff. But I guess if it was big enough, it might ping something. Yeah. And we're gonna get actually to the literature now, so it's a good transition.
I was gonna say, can we make sure that we get to a mouse and to a louse?
That's actually what we're doing first, is to a mouse and to a louse. Yeah. The reason we're doing to a mouse and to a louse is because I want to make sure that just on a basic level of understanding, we all understand this poem. In fact, I can't see as well. That means one of the lights is probably off. Let me go see if, because I'm trying to read what's in front of me. I can't see it. Ah. Y'all are probably all like vampires, like the light. But for me, much better. So now I can see the poems. So Robert Burns, To a Mouse and To a Louse. I should actually try to pull it up on the screen too for those who follow along at home when you're watching on video. Robert Burns to a mouse. Not that any of you are old enough to partake in this, but actually,
I was gonna say I'm not me.
Burns Supper, which is a Scottish national holiday, I believe, happens this Saturday. It's the celebration of his birthday where they get together and they eat haggis. You don't have to eat haggis, but they'll often like drink scotch. There's actually a Robert Burns brand of scotch.
Really?
That is branded that you can. The only place I've ever seen it and bought it was at what's the big chain in Dallas? Specs? Yeah, I got some at Specs, and over time drank it. But I was like, here's one to Robert Burns. Bloop. Don't think I'll do it this year. Maybe I'll drink some tea. Not really feeling in a scotch mood. So, To a Mouse. Robert Burns, Scottish poet. I think he was almost regarded in a sense of like, well, I want to say Robert Frost of his day, where he's sort of like a natural poet, where he's talking about the real world and things around him. But Robert Frost is much different. I think Robert Frost went to Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, you could check that and see if I'm wrong. But Robert Burns really was just sort of like a guy whose education he got just by kind of reading books and being much like Yeats, where we haven't read Yeats yet, but not like an autodidact, but pretty close. Where like he taught himself all this stuff on his own, where he basically gave himself a college education on his own, and he was a very talented writer. Reminds me a little bit of, have y'all read Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn? If you haven't, you should. Greatest American novel, according to Hemingway, I think. But Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn very much tried to capture the tenor and cadence and sounds of American speech at that time. so that we can kind of reasonably assume that the way that it's written in the book, while sometimes people have called it racist in the way it tries to get the dialogue down, really is just trying to capture the way he'd heard people at that time speak.
Yeah.
And granted, there was a little bit of a problem where we always go off the default of us. So his sounds were off his own default sound, and he was trying to capture that for other people speaking. So I mean, even Huck, probably because he was white, probably he wasn't writing him as accurately as he could, nor was he writing Jim, because all of it was framed on the way Mark Twain himself spoke.
Yeah.
So we'd have to have recordings of Twain speaking. I think there might be a couple, but not very many. Because he would have had to have spoken into those gramophone things that would record onto a record.
There's one where, oh man, I read it in American Literature just semesters ago. He's writing this story, and it's from the perspective of this black lady telling this story about finding her son. I can't remember what the hell it's called.
It's not Uncle Tom's Cabin, is it?
No.
See, I haven't read American Lit in a long time, and so I don't know. I don't remember a lot of it.
I'll think of it later. But
I'm one of those people if I don't read something for long enough, I forget. Like it's terrible. I've got that mind from my mom. So I love poetry because it's all short, and I can just reread it. But we'll read Robert Frost, To a Mouse and To a Louse, and I think you'll hopefully see that if you kind of just flow when you start reading it, flow like I'm a rapper. When you kind of just try to say it the way it looks like it sounds, the words themselves seem to come out of it, and you can sort of get it by doing that. So it's
That
two.
was a little like, what's happening?
Yeah, if you just read it without reading it out loud, I think it's very hard. But it says, To a Mouse, so it's a poem he's written to a mouse, and this is the speaker, not necessarily Robert Burns. Remember that, it's always the speaker of a poem, not necessarily the poet himself. To a mouse on turning her up in her nest with the plow, November 1785. So Burns' brother claimed that this poem was composed while the poet was actually holding the plow. So he's like
a plow?
yeah, like a plow, like you would to plow the field. So
I mean, I guess
this is going to be like one where he's pushing it, like I think with the spade on it, and it's got like a wheel and stuff.
Okay.
I don't think it necessarily is with an ox, but I might be wrong about that when we read it. I'll try to figure that out. But and this is weird. I'm not one of these kinds of people. I'm a very visual person, but a lot of time you'll see with Wordsworth claims that the entirety of Tintern Abbey, which we'll read next week, was composed while he was on his walk back from visiting the Y. And it's a poem that's like 3 pages long, and he claims that it's composed it in his head, and it was composed up here, then he wrote it down when he got back. Like, I don't know who thinks like that or who can do that, even poets. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because I've never been able to do anything like that in my entire life. I write down as I go,
Yeah.
because I can't remember more than 3 or 4 lines of anything as I go. Like, it's just not possible. I mean, lists of things, are you kidding? Like, I mean, my wife is like, here, do this, this, and this, and I'm like, you did 3, you're at 3. That's the limit. Like, we can't go further than that.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. So here's To a Mouse on turning her up in her nest with the plows, November 17, 1895. It's going to sound weird. And I'll just probably, I'm going to probably explain it as I go, because it's more helpful that way. Wee sleeked cowering timorous beastie. Oh, what a panic's in thy breastie. Thou need not start away so hasty with bicker and brattle. I would be loth to run and chase thee with murder and pattle. Little sleek cowering, timorous being like timber shaking, beast. So small, sleek, cowering beast, mouse. Oh, what a panic is in thy breast. You need not start away so hasty. So it's kind of like just the sounds of the words. If you can figure out like the accent and then go off the accent and think of what do these words kind of sound like, it's more sound-based than it is actual word-based. With bickering brattle, and I was like, what the hell is that? That's why it's really good to have this Norton book, because I was like, bickering brattle, and you look down and it says with headlong scamper, so like running with your head in front of you like fast as you can. Y'all seen the narrow toe run? Almost like that, where your arms are back, like let's get going.
Stop it.
No, I'm dead serious. That's exactly the kind of run it's talking about. Like, so He's like, you don't need to run away so quickly. Don't cower. He's like, I would be loath to run and chase thee with murdering paddle. So like, it'd be very unlikely, and I don't really want to do it. Do I want to chase you with some murdering like stick? Like I'm not want to try to. I don't know why they just feel like they had to switch paddle out for plow staff. Well, I'm sorry, paddle out for plow staff. Like I get what a paddle is.
Right.
Piece of wood you smack stuff with. I mean, I don't really feel you can replace that one. And a lot of times it does that in the Norton edition. It like so with murdering paddle. So he's turned at the mouse. He says, "You don't need to run away. Don't freak out. It's fine.
I'm not gonna kill you.
I'm gonna read you a poem, or I'm gonna say, I'm going to lecture to you with my humanity here." And he explains to the mouse, who I guess is just sitting there now, in this supposed like situation. Yeah. I'm truly sorry man's dominion hath broken nature's social union, and justifies that ill opinion which makes thee startle at me, thy poor earth-born companion and fellow mortal. That one's not so bad, actually. I'm truly sorry that man's power over nature has broken nature's social union with man, like we now have power over you, and justifies the ill opinion that you have of me, which makes you scared at me, your earth-born companion, fellow mortal. I'm sorry that the power we now have over the land has caused you to be so scared of me in this situation, but nonetheless, it happens. I doubt not wiles, but thou may thieve. What then, poor beast, did thou man live? A diamond it could thrave's a small request. I'll get a blessing with the leave and never miss it. So he says, I doubt not. He says whiles, and it translates that to sometimes. I don't know, whiles. A whiles, times. I don't know. I feel like that one's more natural. Like that one makes more sense.
I'm so glad I didn't miss this.
I was like, Kennedy's gonna be pissed, and then you walked in like at the right when I start reading it, and I was like, he loves the voices.
I love the voices, man.
Like voices are like his favorite thing I do. Yes, he is. He says, I doubt not sometimes you must thieve from me. And what then? Like, who cares? He's like, poor little mousey. You gotta live. A diamond acre and a thrace, I'm like, the hell? And it says, an occasional ear and 24 sheaves. I don't know what a sheaf is. I think it's like a gathering of ears of corn. And it's an occasional ear and like gatherings of ears of corn. Kind of, so he's like, that's nothing. He's like, it's a small request you have. I'll get a blessing with the leave and never miss it. I saw something recently. I think that he maybe would have a problem with what we have today. But I saw something recently that said that it was a homeless man who stole $100 like at a bank. Like he just asked for $100 or something, like some small amount. And like he got arrested and like he had to do like 5 years in jail or something like that. But there was like this billionaire who like faked out investors and stuff, and he got like a year and 6 months like probation or some crazy thing. So it was like a homeless person was sent to prison for 5 years over $100.
Right.
But this billionaire ruined many people's lives, and he got a year of probation. Which is like, how many lawyers can you afford? The more lawyers, the less time. If they went by percentage-wise, they'd be like, okay, homeless man, compared to his year and 6 months of probation, let's see, percentage-wise, what's a year and 6 months? Like 1.5 years. Let's see, what is 1.5 years in seconds?
Oh, wow.
Okay, what is 1.5 years in minutes? Let's go with that. 788,400. So let's see, we're talking about billions of dollars. Oh wait, it said times 10 to the 7th, so that's actually fairly accurate. 4.73 times 10 to the 7th would be how many? 10 to the 7th is millions, right? So 4.73 million times 10 to the 7th? What that basically means is if we had an equivalent amount of time in prison to the guy who did 1.6 years probation, the homeless man would do about a second and a half of probation. If we did it by percentage of money. Because there's no telling how many people lost their homes as the result of what the billionaire did.
Yes, but there's no real equivalent exchange in this world.
No, we can't have equivalent exchange. It's about the morality of the crime. And a homeless person who takes $100 in a bank on an impulse is far worse than someone who systematically over time intentionally ruins the lives of many people. As we all know. Or not, you know. Can you imagine knowing you're screwing people over for an extended period of time? I can't
Are
imagine.
you?
But this farmer has a very appropriate opinion of that. He's like, I'm making way more than you are, Mouse. Take an ear of corn. That's no big deal. I'm not going to kill you over this. And he didn't even take his corn. He's saying if you wanted to take some corn so you could survive, that would be no big deal. Because I would never miss it. You have to live. And he says here what he's done to him. Thy wee bit house he too in ruin. Its silly walls the winds are strewing, and nothing now to big a new one in Foggage Green. And bleak December winds ensuing, both snell and keen. Your tiny house too in ruin. Its silly walls the winds are strewing around, and nothing now to build a new one. And it says, and nothing now to build a new one. Oh, nothing. Oh, I'm finally for years. I've been wondering what this means. I was like, it wouldn't be nothing to build a new one. It'd be a lot of work. But it means nothing left to build from. No materials. God, what an idiot. Of foggage green, of coarse grass. I was so confused by those two lines. So confused. And he says, and bleak December's winds ensuing, both snow and so we got the cold winds blowing. They're bitter. They suck. They're here. Suck. So there's nothing you can even build from. Your house is gone. No need to be scared of me. I'm sorry about what I've done to you. This is man's power. You could take from me, no big deal. Your house is gone. You can't rebuild it. Caught up to speed. Thou saw the fields laid bare and waste, and weary winter coming fast, and cozy here beneath the blast thou thought to dwell. Till crash the cool coulter passed out through thy cell. You saw the fields. They were laid bare and waste. You're like, I can't survive here. I better build a little house. I'm going to go sleep down there, cozy, beneath the blast of winter. You're going to just chill here till, boom, my cutter came right through your cell. Kind of like the implication of my bad. And he says, that wee bit heap of leaves and stubble have cost thee many a weary nibble. Now thou's turned out for all thy trouble but house or hole, to toil the winter sleety dribble and chronic cold. This tiny heap of leaves and stubble has cost you many a weary nibble. You've been chewing through things and putting it together. And now, for all your trouble, you've been turned out of house and home. But what does this say? Without house or, what is it for? Holding land? House or land? Oh, okay, that's better. To toil. It says, they said toil, they said it was endure. I don't know, why don't we say toil? That's what it really means, to toil. I don't like the translations all the time. To toil the winter's sleety dribble and cranich cold. Cran rich. I always wondered, like, I guess I always thought it was strange in Skyrim how there would be cranberries in the cold places. I guess cran has something to do with cold. Because it says cran rich. And it translates that as hoarfrost, so like ice covered. I don't know, it's very strange. So you've been left here, now you're turned out to toil the sleety dribble and hoarfrosty cold of winter. That sucks. Poor Mouse. It sucks to be him. He's basically saying, I did a whole lot of bad things to you. And I will warn you guys, when we get to the research paper, or when we get to critical analysis, a lot of people interpret this poem as being, it's difficult. You have to work hard to make a case for this being a we do bad things to animals poem, because everything kind of turns, like this one and in the Louse poem, in the last two stanzas. Everything changes. So we see this last stanza says, but Mousie, thou art not alone. In proven foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men gang off galley, and leave not but grief and pain for promised joy. So he says, but Mouse, you're not alone in proving that foresight may be vain. So trying to plan for the winter was a mistake, or it had no point. But you're not alone in doing this. He said the best laid schemes of mice and men often go awry. So all of us make plans for this is how life will go, and those plans might not turn out. You can do all this planning, and life throws you a curveball. or plows through your house. You know? And he says, and leave us nothing but grief and pain when we were supposed to have promised joy. So all the planning that you do can, be screwed up. It's one of the reasons I've always wondered, especially in today's climate, why I have so many other teachers around me. Maybe it's just a difference in the way things have changed for millennials versus boomers and Gen X, because they talk about, oh man, I've only got so long until retirement, and then I'm going to retire. I'm not even really thinking about retirement. And I wonder now, right now, I'm young and I have children, and that's what's going on. Everybody's assuming they're going to be old and their bodies will be tired, and that's when they're going to have fun. I always just thought, what a strange. Maybe they just want to be able to sit when they're old, but if you sit when you're old, you die. There's a lot of evidence that points toward that. There's a lot of people die within 2 years of retirement after they retire. Because when they retire, they end up sitting down and not moving. They watch a lot of TV and they die out. You're not made to just sit. You're made to work. People who find something to do, another passion that they throw themselves into and work hard at it when they retire, that's the ones who end up living and having a good quality of life after that. But I've always just wondered, people put, it's so weird because I'm such a planner, I've told you how I'm a planner. I make vacations annoying because I'm planning every restaurant we go to. I say we're going to this place and this place. I'm asking my wife, I'm like, can you tell me where you plan on going? The beach. Okay, yes. Once after the beach, we're not going to be at the beach all day. Well, we might. No. Where do you want to go? Little shops and things? Yeah, I guess shops. Okay, so shops near the beach, near a hotel. Do you want to drive down the beach? I'm asking her all these questions about her travels. And the first couple times she went with me, it was overbearing. But then she realized one time when I didn't do it, we didn't have fun. We ended up going to a Chili's. Because I know Chili's. I don't know these other places. And I was like, yeah, we don't know these other places. But when somebody looks up Yelp reviews obsessively for months ahead of a trip, we do eat good places, But all that planning can be fine. But sometimes you'll plan off for the future, I'm gonna do this when my wife and I are retired, and then you die, a wife dies, somebody gets in a wreck, kid loses their job, you got to pay for the kid, and then all these plans that you had get screwed up. I'm gonna get married and be happy. Divorce.
Have you been planning your funeral?
No, I don't really plan funeral. I can't plan that far ahead. It's too sad. I mean, I'm supposed to. You're supposed to
I imagine you'll have videos and shit, videos of yourself
talking to people.
Oh no, that I want to do. That I want to do.
Kind of like you do in class when
He's
you're
gonna
not
do
here.
personalized videos for every person that shows up, and you know it.
I want people to laugh at my funeral because I want to. I'm gonna be sitting there watching. I'll be like, look, they're giggling. That's what I want. As long as I don't end up eventually developing the Philip Larkin view of death, which y'all are gonna just be depressed by when we get there.
Let's talk about it now.
No, we don't have time.
Someone that's already been done.
Let's make it.
All right, let's see. So we got to a mouse. That's we got one more stanza left, but it's basically the same idea. Oh no, that's right. This is what really throws the whole poem on its head and what makes it hard to be we treat animals badly because of the last stanza. He says, still thou art blessed compared with me. The present only toucheth thee, but I backward cast my eye and prospect drear, and forward though I cannot see, I guess and fear. So he ends the poem by saying, still, you're blessed compared to me. You're only touched by the present. But I look back in time and what I've done, and I regret on things I could have had, and I look in the future, man, what's coming? So he basically, he rips up his house and this lecture at the end. Man, I spit all over my computer.
I was wondering if you actually saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. It was like a whole helium-filled balloon of spittle. It was massive. There's the whole poem. I forgot to scroll down. So he basically tells the mouse at the end, the speaker does, that it's really not that bad that your house got destroyed because all you're going to do is start building a new one or you'll die. He didn't say that part, but the implication is it's not going to bother him too bad because he doesn't have regrets. He doesn't fear the future. He doesn't have anxiety. So it doesn't suck to be a mouse. It sucks to be me, which I've always thought is very appropriate to. There's certain people in society, it's it's so hard to be me, when their life is not really that hard, or somebody drove into your house with like their Mercedes and like came through your living room wall, which you're never going to be able to afford to fix, and they're like, look what you did to my Mercedes. How dare you put a house here? I'm like, the hell? What? You drove into my house.
And that was the day
Um,
you went to jail.
It's like when this kind of goes a little bit with victim blaming in a way, because it's like the mouse is the victim, yet he's blaming it for having, like, he's like, but you know, it's not as bad to be you as it is me. I mean, I got regrets and things. The mouse is like, I have no house. Like, what? Why are we even talking about this? Yeah.
My friend who had a 16-year-old drove a dirt bike and through their window into the living room, and then they were like, "What did you do to my dirt bike?" Like that was literally their stance. Instead of your wall, it's why is my dirt bike?
Dirt bike? I kept it.
The parents were so.
I think of like rapist athletes. I know it's a little bit different than dirt bikes. It's true, but if you look at, what was that kid's name? Brock Turner?
Yeah.
They were like, oh, but look what they're gonna do to his future. You're the raper. You're the rapist. They're like, but look. I mean, it's really bad to be an athlete whose prospects are ruined, not somebody who got raped. It is shocking the way we heard people talk about it in the news. Like, you're going to ruin his future. What? What world do I live in? Like, it just was like shocking.
But it's also the fact that you also have to consider that there's a side of the spectrum where it's a false accusation.
But
What?
Except it wasn't.
yeah, well, not that case. I mean, I'm sure there's the possibility, but I mean, in that particular case, no. That's why I chose a specific instance and not all athlete rapes. But that one specifically. Yes?
So he's basically just, looking at how man kind of disrupts the life of nature and animals, and then at the end summing up that because they don't really have regret and regret of the past, fear of the future,
They don't have
ultimately life is
Yeah, they don't have it as bad, basically, is what he's saying.
worse off.
Yeah.
So
It is.
sympathizing and then like taking.
Yeah, this is not actually a very sympathetic poem, or at least the speaker's not. I've often thought that perhaps Burns is criticizing this viewpoint, that somebody would blame the victim of a crime for having got in their way, or almost like when there are rich people or high class people who steal from the poor because they don't think the poor would appreciate the money if they had it. Like lottery winners, like oh, they won the lottery, but they're not real rich people. I mean, they don't even know what to do with the money. They don't know how to treat money. They don't know what to do with being rich. Kind of like, it was really funny actually, but I saw like when everybody laughed at the Kardashians, where they said, we know how that, like, it was some like thing they talked about in like the Emmys, I think, that came out and did like they said, we are very aware in our family how the real lives of real people can create compelling drama, and like the whole crowd laughed. And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them. But they're considered not like old money or like old talent. They're considered people who just sort of, like their daughter one time had a video that was inappropriate that became famous, and now suddenly the family's millionaires
Well, I mean,
and almost billionaires.
To be fair, the only reason that their family's name had any recognition to begin with was because of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Have you seen was it Joe Rogan's like comedy sketch? I can't remember who it was. No, it was the Fear Factor guy. Was that Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, he did this comedy sketch one time. He said, you imagine how difficult it would be to explain the Kardashians to aliens if they came down? They said, well, first off, you have to understand, in college football, we have the Heisman Trophy. And one of the best Heisman Trophy people we ever had was O.J. Simpson. And O.J. Simpson, one time, maybe killed his wife. And then he needed a lawyer to represent him. And that lawyer had a daughter. And then you got to understand about Moesha. Because he'd explain like Ray J, and then like Kardashian, and they were in the video together, and then somehow that ended up, and now they're multimillionaires. Like it doesn't really make any sense when you think about it. They did, really?
Kim and Kanye, that she couldn't sit still.
She couldn't sit still, so
I just photoshopped. They decided they weren't gonna make her sit there and do the photo, so they just photoshopped.
Oh, Kim and Kanye's kid?
Mhm.
Yeah, because what does truth matter? Fake news, everything. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. The other day, did y'all happen to hear about, in the other class earlier, I used the example of how there was an inaccurate article on Trump where it said like he claimed that he deserved the Congressional Medal of Honor even though he never served. And when I watched the video, what I saw was him joking. There he's like, who won the Congressional Medal? You're a great man. He says, I told him, I said I wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor. And they told me I wasn't qualified. He was joking. He was making a joke.
Yeah.
But the headline was like, he claims he deserves it. And I was like, that's grossly miscalculating what was actually occurring. And I hate that in the media, like where there's an inaccuracy reported to try to get clicks. And then people don't actually click. They just look at the title, so they think they know what happened without actually looking.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened the other day on CNN where they did a poll of like, did y'all see this? They did a poll of who would you vote for in the Democratic nomination? And it was like Biden and like Warren and like all the Democratic nominees. And there was a category that said other, but Sanders was not listed as one of the people. And other had the greatest percentage. And they said like a whole bunch of names on the newscast, but they said like, other was like literally would not say Bernie Sanders' name, despite him having had the most percentage. They labeled him as other because they didn't put him in the poll. They put him as other, and so other had like the highest percentage of 33%. And then people started jokingly making like these posters for Bernie Sanders that said "Other 2020," and it's just so funny like how like it really bothers me like the lack of truth in like media like all the time constantly. Yeah, but that's getting on the Kardashians, which we can't spend more time on because they don't matter.
That's why I just watch the weather.
The weather, yeah. Hopefully the weather is like.
Even at the time, they're
There's not a whole lot of political motivations in the actual tomorrow's weather.
We've got a storm coming in, and President. No.
We're like, but I don't want it to rain, so it's not going to. Like, you would just be fired. Because it'd be like, it's rain. He was wrong. Now, Tualaus. Tualaus is a little bit different. Although it still kind of has the same themes, if you look. It's almost exactly the same kind of construction. It's just a little bit different message. So he's talking to a louse. Remember what a louse is? Lice. Yeah, single lice. On seeing one in a lady's bonnet at church. So he's at church. Somebody's dressed very nicely. They have a bonnet. Pretty hat with like the strings that come down, I guess. And he sees a louse on it. So there's got a lice up there. Ugh. I find it strange. Like to me, when I think the word lice, I get really icked out. Louse, not so much. I don't know what it is. I just go louse. Man, lice. Ugh. We gotta buy the damn shampoo. Maybe go to the doctor. Like the lice is the worst thing. Like it's like the world is over when your kids get lice.
Well, it's.
They're like, oh,
so-
she's got lice. It's like, oh my god.
I haven't dealt with that yet with my kids, but it is so.
It's the worst.
It's terrible.
It really is.
You've heard like
How
bedding
hot
and
oil.
stuffed animals.
Yes.
And everybody thinks you're dirty when you say you have lice, but you're not
They're
dirty.
like human fleas.
Just
Yeah.
talking about
That's
the shits
exactly
and
what they are.
Yes.
So here we go, talking about the louse and lady's bonnet at church. Ha! Where are you gone, you crawling furly?
Yes.
Your impudence protects you sorely, I cannot say, but you strunt rarely your gauze and lace. Though faith, I fear you dine but sparely on such a place. They actually had the view that the CDC has said is false, that lice only dine on dirty people. But that's actually not true. Yeah. Clean people, dirty people, they go to equally. They don't really care dirty or clean. It's just that you might be more likely to, I think,
Pick it up if you don't have good
still have lice. Maybe if you have less money, probably because you can't afford to get rid of it.
Yeah, you can.
But it doesn't mean it'll go for anybody based on how poor you are or how unclean you are. It's just whether you got the money to afford getting rid of it.
Well, and it's sad. My son's dad, his niece went and lived with, I don't know, her aunt, and it was like, they just didn't, I guess they just didn't care.
If you had it?
And it was like, everybody in the house had it, and he literally went and picked her up because it was a bad situation over there, and it was like, there was
No care about it.
They didn't even seem bothered. Real. It was just almost like.
Isn't that still the reason they?
Take care of it. They were just, it's just like a part of life, or something. It was weird.
I mean, I guess it used to be, but not anymore. Huh? Oh no, I was gonna say like I think that's why they still like shave their heads in the military, right? Or they get shorter cropped hair in the military. Do they still do that, Kennedy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Do you have to do check-ins every once in a while?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have to like maybe they say, hey, we need you. We made a new war and you're part of it. And you're like, really? I don't. I would rather not be. Does that happen to you anymore, or are you out of that?
No, I'm good.
You're out.
I did 8 years active, so they're
Gotcha.
not going to bring me back. And also, if they did a draft, I'm too old to get drafted anyway. So.
Ah, nice.
I am medically unfit.
Oh yeah.
What?
I probably am too, honestly.
Say what now?
I said, did anybody else get a text message about joining?
Huh?
I got a text
I spent the
message
whole
to come
last
join.
2
I
years
said, I'm too old.
No, I didn't get that.
How
I'm too old.
What branch is yours from? It wasn't just a
Well,
generic.
that's what I'm saying. Every branch is different.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't ask me. I'm pretty. I mean, if I went, they would understand pretty much like the first day. They're like, oh, we can't.
This is
Well,
gonna
they
work.
had it on the news after that.
You
but
get in line, do this. I'd be like,
It wasn't.
why? I'd be like, well, you're not. This is not gonna work. We don't like the why guys.
Send you over there to raise poems to interview.
This is the distraction.
Just recite poetry.
That's why it's distracting.
I got a pretty good poem about a wall if you guys want to hear it. So what it says here, where are you going, you crawling little wonder, like your impudence, and I believe that's like a like kind of pride mixed with kind of daring. Like if you're impudent, like you don't pay attention to what other people tell you to do, you just do whatever. Let me look that up. I want to be sure that that's right because I hate like
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What word?
impudence. I got called Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. I paid money for, so we're gonna look it up there. Impudence. It's a great app. The quality or state of being impudent. Thank you, dictionary. Marked by contemptuous or cocky boldness or disregard of others. That's basically what I said, just different.
I said it's a great app, and then just.
Apparently, I've looked it up before. I look it up constantly, I guess, because it said it was already saved as a word. Apparently, another semester. And it says, I can't say, but you strut rarely, meaning like you're not going to have much luck there, over gauze and lace. Though, Faith, I fear you dine but sparely on such a place. Like, you're not going to find much to eat there. She's a clean lady. Ye ugly, creeping, blasted wonder, detested, shunned by sot and sinner. How dare you set your feet upon her, so fine a lady? Go somewhere else and seek your dinner on some poor body. Pretty clear there. He's like,
How dare you be there?
like how you dealing is the like creepy, like you creeping blasted wonder. You're detested. You're shunned by saint and sinner. How dare you set your feet upon her, such a fine lady? Go somewhere else and seek your dinner on some poor person. Sooth, in some beggar's half at squattle, there you may creep and sprawl and sprattle with other kindred, jumping cattle and shoals and nations, where horn nor bane nor dare unsettle your thick plantations. Now, this is a misunderstanding at the time of what lice did. They thought lice could be on animals. They can't. That's fleas. Lice only attack humans. It's their only food. So if we could just shave everybody's head for like a year, would that mean they'd all die? Might be worth it. Right?
That's the same.
I was gonna say,
Everything.
do we have to shave our beards? too? 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not.
They can live in beards. They can.
No.
You're like, I'm cool with all women's heads being shaved, but not this beard.
Yeah.
That's very selfish.
Yes.
Pretty much.
That is a
People
reality.
worked a long time on that hair, and you're like, but my beard. So it says, swift in some beggars' locks sprawl around. There you may creep and sprawl and struggle with other kindred, jumping cattle and shoals and nations. Where horn nor bane ne'er dare unsettle your thick plant. Well, actually, maybe because he's saying with other kindred, like if you're with a beggar, maybe that's what he means. Is if you're in the beggar's hair, then you can be around other thing like jumping cattle and shoals, and so you'll be like with farmers and such. And I'm not really 100% sure, but I've always thought he meant like you could just go jump on a cow.
I took it as like other leaves, like your kindred.
Oh, your kindred. That's what you'll find more. Oh, that's so much smarter than what I was thinking of. You're right.
Well,
That's correct. No, that's right. He's considering them like little animals. I just never thought he would compare it to a cattle because we like cattle. They provide beef. Where is the beef? In our stomachs. That's why we like them. What did I just say? Now hold you there, you're out of sight, below the fatral, snug and tight. Now faith ye yet you'll not be right till you've got on it. The very topmost tower in height amiss his bonnet. Now hide you there. You're out of yes. What? Now hide you there. You're out of sight below the fat. I love the word fat rolls for like the fat ribbon curls. I love that word. It's phenomenal. Like the fat rolls. I love it. Snug and tight. No. What does it say? No faith yet. Oh, confound you. You'll not be right till you've got on at the very topmost towering height of Mrs. Bonnet. So he's like very cocky. My sooth right bold, you set your nose out, and plump and grey as any grows it, or for some rank mercurial roset or fell red smedum. I give you such a dirty toss of it. What dress you draw them?
That was so perfect.
Yeah, it really was.
My sooth right bold, you set your nose out, as plump and grey as any gooseberry. Oh, for some rank mercurial rosin, I guess is how they got rid of them back then. Or fell red smedum. He's talking about like poisons, I think, that would get rid of the guy. I'd give you such a hearty dose of it. It would dress your it would smack your butt. Like it would, yeah.
Look me in the eyes and tell me you weren't balls deep in the drama club when you were in school.
I have no idea what any of that means, but I was in theater. I got an award.
See?
I got
It fucking shows.
I got what was it? Best actor at. It was just Zone. It wasn't like.
What production?
I don't remember. I played the chef. I played Rajna the chef. No, it was the nose guy with the nose.
No kidding.
No, the other guy. The other guy who's like Cyrano de Bergerac. Yes, that's it. You are correct. So.
That's pretty awesome.
And the chef was like a side character, so I had to make a side character work. They would never give me a lead role because I'm just not attractive enough. Next.
Oh, come on, don't be like that.
I wasn't attractive enough, I say. That's much better because now I'm pretty attractive. I like the gray hair. It's coming in. I'm getting very wizened. Wizened with a Z. I would not been surprised to spy you on an old wife's foot. I mean, I got a hot wife. What do I need pride for? I would not been surprised to spy you on an old wife's flannin' toy, or even some bit duddy boy on his wild coat. But Mrs. Fine the nardy Foy, how dare you do it? I would not be surprised to spy you on some poor people clothes, but Mrs. Fine Lenardi, apparently that's some, I guess, brand of balloon-shaped bonnet named after Vincenzo Lenardi. Okay, so it's like a fancy, well-known type of bonnet. How dare you do this? Now here we get finally to the message of the poem after we've got through all the fun description. Oh, Jenny, do not toss your head and set your beauties all abread. Ye little can what cursed speed that blassie's making. Though winks and finger ends I dread or notice taken. He's like, don't shake your head. She's finally figured out it's on her, and she's like, and everybody's like, look.
Can you do that again?
Look at her. No, I'm not. One time.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
I think I hurt my neck a little bit, actually. But she's shaking her head all over the place trying to get the damn thing off, and it's still there. And he's like, well, no, they're pointing at you. Like, and then he says finally at the end of the message, oh, would some power the gift to give us to see ourselves as others see us? It would free many a blunder free us from foolish notion. What airs and dress and gait would leave us in even devotion. He says, oh, would some power we've been given the gifts to see ourselves as others see us. It would free from many a blunder free us in foolish notion. What airs and dress and gait would leave us in even devotion. But yeah, so if we could just see ourselves as others see us, it would free us from many of those like obligations that we had. Can you imagine if we just knew what everybody thought about us? So we'd know like what was really important to others that we actually cared about and what was just didn't matter at all. Like sometimes I've thought like people go get like changes made and I just go, well, why did you do that? Maybe they just wanted to change, but a lot of times I think people think they're being judged by people for something and they really aren't. And imagine if we just knew everything we were being judged by, so we would know what we should worry about. And really we shouldn't be worried by things we think people are judging us on anyway, but we do. That's how we are. We want to be part of society, right?
So basically,
Sure.
We want to function here.
We want to blend in with society.
Basically, he's saying that the louse looked at that lady as just anybody else.
right?
He thinks that he would have more to feast on if it was a poor person. But looking at the rich lady as just the same as the poor lady, maybe if we all looked at each other that way, we would say the rich and the poor are equal. Like we shouldn't just regard the poor as any worse than the rich. We shouldn't regard people who are one way as any different than anybody else because we're all the same. There's not that much difference between all of us. Hell, there's not even that much difference between us and bananas. Don't we share like 90 or 75% of our DNA with bananas? It's some crazy amount. One of the reasons that they do all the animal testing, like mice, to test like chemicals, is because we share like a very large amount of our DNA with mice. Because almost all the DNA is factored into like cells and how they're built, and then like systems of like a heart and liver and stuff like that. And they've got all the basic stuff that we have. It's just the size, shape, and how much fur is like the big differences. And brain
Well, I mean,
as
the
the largest.
poison that can kill them.
What?
The amount of poison that can kill them.
That is true. Oh, also, I thought I'd mention, we don't read it, but Auld Lang Syne, the New Year's song, also written by Burns. It's right there down below that poem. Huh? Auld Lang Syne? Yeah. It's Burns as well. So let's go to William Blake, The Tiger. I think that's probably going to be the one we're going to go to next. We're going to skip on Thomas Shanter because I think I've asked maybe like one question about that anyway. It's like whether you read it. It's not like a complicated thing.
Is there going to be multiple attempts on this?
If somebody emails me and says, hey, can we, in fact, anybody who needs a multiple attempt, can you email me and ask me for one? That way, if I see enough people who are interested in multiple attempts, I might allow it. Why can't I find Blake? Oh, it's because it's backwards. No wonder I'm trying to turn forward. 1466, The Tiger. We're probably going to read this first, then go through the blue ones, because I feel like that's going to be the most useful thing to do. So, are y'all not here? Can you not hear anything?
They can.
They just stopped like, no, we hear you. We're just done.
Oh, if it's cold in there. Like...
Somebody laugh.
They just laughed.
We're here.
Oh, okay. Everybody's just putting coats on, so I thought you were like colder. Like everybody thought y'all were leaving.
Oh, the other guy. The guy that was in there.
Oh, okay.
He was gone.
See, now you're a liar.
Interesting. Okay, so
Sorry, it's just too funny.
so let's see. The Tiger.
We will discuss this on Tuesday.
No, we're gonna talk to today. Oh yeah. Well, it's not 2:15, is it? No, it's 2:08. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? And what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? And when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? I probably don't have a lot of time, because we don't have a lot of time left. I don't have a lot of time to like kind of figure out what this is about. So I'll more or less just say that through the discussion that I normally would like to do, is that the lamb gives us a clue as to what the tiger is. So the lamb is the famous lamb we have, like that. Something we constantly call the lamb is what? Jesus. So did he who made the lamb, did he who make Jesus make you? So if the lamb is Jesus, the opposite of the lamb, the danger thing, would be what? Devil, Satan, yeah. So the tiger is sort of a metaphor for Satan. So he asks a lot of questions throughout. He's like kind of taking us through the building of a tiger bit by bit. Somebody who designed a tiger also knew that there was going to be a lamb made, or had already made the lamb, and still put together a tiger on purpose. So he's saying like, so there's this, not just a deadly creature. There's something particular about tigers. They're not just deadly like, say, a black widow. What's different? Well, I mean, obviously size and stuff about a black widow and a tiger. But like, what is particular to a tiger that's not quite the same as other large mammals? What's stealthy? Pretty, you said, right? Pretty. Yeah, they're pretty. They're pretty as hell. People want to get tattoos of them, you know?
Doesn't the tiger, like, with its mate or whatever, doesn't the mate do the killing and stuff?
I don't know.
I heard that somewhere, and when I was going to say if that's true, then that's kind of interesting. Like, the tiger sends out other people to do its dirty work for him.
Maybe.
But if that's false, then that's false as well, so I'm not
Well, I mean,
it's kind of the same way that lions and mountain lions are different. Like they share the same name, but at the same time they're two different kinds of cats.
Right.
So mountain lions, they will hunt in packs, but there's no like pack, kind of like a wolf where there's a pack leader, but they all do the same stuff.
well, regardless.
It's not like a pride of lions where
Where
the female lions go out and get food.
Well, regardless, the large
Tigers
cats,
differ by species.
they're very dangerous. They could take any of us down. And the tigers in particular are very beautiful. So what he's basically doing is comparing a tiger to something that is nonetheless very dangerous, but also beautiful. And he considers that, I think, to be a bit frightening, and for a good reason. So if you think about the nature of sin and what Satan is associated with, sin, the things that are bad that we shouldn't do, they're nonetheless very attractive. One of my favorite tweets of all time was a girl who said, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't have sex, I'm a virgin, I'm a well-behaved girl who's saving myself for a man. Where's my man? Because she was like in her 20s and she's like, I guess, frustrated that she can't find a guy. And this girl said, I smoke, I drink. I've probably had sex twice. Oh, and another thing is she said, like, doesn't wear revealing clothing. She says, I wear clothing that reveals basically everything. I've had sex hundreds of times, and I can tell you where your man is. He's with me. And the point of her, I think what she was saying there and how it relates here is that it's kind of difficult and somewhat boring even to follow what you're supposed to do. Sin is attractive and fun, at least in the moment. And people always like to draw it as a bill like, well, things will go bad for you in life if you can't be rich and powerful unless you, but a lot of times the rich people are the worst of us. And that as somebody who lives a life of goodness deals with nothing but pain. It's not necessarily manifest in this world, if you have those beliefs. That I think this is why Mormonism, I've always thought, the people I've known who are Mormons, it's so attractive of a belief is because those people, I think, Mormons, I think, get to experience material wealth in the world for the choices that they make. At least as my friends have explained it to me. And I've always thought that that's an interesting viewpoint. And why it's so attractive is it shows you get to see the fruits of your labors while you're here. You don't have to wait until heaven. But the idea of heaven is that, of course, you wait for the fruits of your labors, is that you are a good person, your life might be bad the whole time, and then finally you get to heaven, right? And that's kind of what he's talking about here, is that sin is very attractive. It's beautiful, and you want it.
Our thing's about to shut off.
Oh, it is? I wonder why. It shouldn't.
Set on a timer.
I wonder if they set your thing to be early or something, like they got the timing off for your class. That's really weird.
Wrap it up, please.
And then chimney sweepers. If you look at the chimney sweeper poems, the reason he's expressing this view, both of the chimney sweeper poems and London, you look at there and he's very frustrated. He's very frustrated with the fact that women or kids are being sold by their parents into this slavery to, sweep chimneys. And in London, like there are like prostitutes who are giving their STD illnesses to their children when they're born. He said that the blood, like the palace walls, are painted with blood and gold. They're built with money, yet the blood of soldiers paints them. Like everybody is able to live these lavish lives as Christians and claim how great they are.
And there it goes.
No, she
You know,
doesn't. No, she
we
doesn't.
saw you do that.
Something
You
over
just
there.
walked. You're good.
So it's very interesting that
You ain't slick.
that's how
Really?
that chimney sweepers in London, like, they show his frustrations with society at the time, and the way he feels about God and the tiger, I think is totally a result of what he sees happening in society. People are able to live great lives on earth because of the terrible things they do to others. And he says, how could a good God allow bad things to happen to people? And that is a question that people today still have not answered. And that's the ultimate question of the tiger, and why I think it lasts more so than his other poems, because while they're overtly political, this one more or less poses a philosophical question. Have a great day. Don't forget to do the quizzes or the discussion posts that you might have missed. Now, my clock says 2:15 exactly. I don't know what your clock says.